Welcome to the Dice Tower, a series of video reviews about board and card games. Here are your hosts.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Z Garcia. Hello.
I'm Roy Kennedy.
And I'm Mike Delisio.
And today we're talking about a game called Holi. At least I think that's how it's pronounced.
I believe so.
Colors.
Ooh.
So Holi is based on an actual festival where people run around and throw different colorful powders on each other. And I watched it, and I've never wanted to be in a festival so badly. No, it looks really fun.
Yeah, it does.
So, and they go up on
I think it's
balconies.
cornstarch. I think you can eat it even.
Well, I think it's more along the lines of that it doesn't hurt you if you do eat it. I'm not sure you should walk around eating lots of cornstarch.
Tom, you enjoy the festival your way. I'll enjoy the festival my way.
So people go up on balconies and they throw different colors on each other, and that's what this is. You are part of a festival here, and you are going around throwing your colored powder everywhere, trying to hit other people with it. But also, this game's an abstract game.
Yeah, prepare. Now that you've heard what the game's about, prepare to be shocked when you
Here's
see
a cool
it.
theme. Actually,
Yeah.
it is a pretty cool 3D looking board. Here it is.
In Holi, you're going to try to gain the most points by taking one mandatory action and up to two optional actions in any order. The thing you're going to be doing primarily is throwing color, and that's placing these color tokens out on this three-dimensional board that you see here. The players start down on that bottom row. You see some little tokens that are spread throughout. Those are candy tokens. Primarily what you're going to be doing is playing cards from your hand. You have these action cards. Generally, you're going to have 3 cards in hand. And you're going to be using these to throw color out on the board in these particular patterns. They can be rotated, they can be turned in any way as long as it is a valid spot on the board. So let's say, for example, if I'm the blue player, I have 2 different types of action cards here. I have one that shows this little symbol and one that does not. If I choose one that does not have that symbol on it, for example this card, I have to look at these 3 spaces, and one of them has to represent where I'm at on the board. So let's say, for example, I wanted to play this card, and I'm saying that I'm in this spot, so I'm going to throw color here and here. So I would take these 2 color tokens, and I would place them in the corresponding spots. Okay, I'd place one up here, and I'd place one here. Play that card, and I'd draw another. Another way that you can use these action cards to throw color is that you can play any of them face down, and then you can put a color token anywhere you want on the level that you're on, even on top of your opponent. And for example, if I were to do that, I would do a hit to my opponent there, then that color would go into their supply, and I would gain a point. There's also going to be points at the end of the games for your color tokens in other players' supplies. So it behooves you oftentimes to throw your color on other players. When you do see a card like this, where this symbol is here, then you are on this spot and you throw color accordingly, okay? Those are the 2 different ways that you're going to throw color. The other thing that you can do is you can move, okay? And you can do that before or after you throw color. You also don't have to move. That's optional. So let's say that I threw color and then I decide I want to move over here because I want to get this candy, okay? These candy tokens go into your supply, and at the end of the game, you're going to get 5 points for each player that has fewer sweets tokens, or sweets is what they're actually called. We call them candy, but you get 5 points for each player that has less of them than you. So again, you're trying to gain those candy tokens as much as you can. And it would go like that back and forth, where the yellow player would then play one of their cards. Perhaps they would move first, perhaps they wouldn't. But eventually you're going to be having color strewn about the board, okay? And let's say, for example, we had a situation like this, where we've got color that is being placed throughout the board. And let's say the yellow player moved here. And now the yellow player, it's actually, I'm going to move it up 1. I'm going to move it here so you can maybe get a better look at it. Let's say we've got a situation like this. Yellow moves to this spot. They're surrounded by tokens. There's tokens all around them. In that case, they can move up to the space directly above them. So you look here, A4, they can move up to A4 on that next level. Why would you want to climb up? Well, you'd want to climb up because at the end of the game, any of your colored tokens that are on the third level are going to be worth 3 points. Any of your color tokens that are on the second level are going to be worth 2, and any of your color tokens that are at the bottom are going to be worth 1. That's the standard game. There are some cards that will adjust that, but we'll talk about that in a moment. So basically, the higher up, generally speaking, the more scoring opportunities, the higher scoring you're going to have for your different colors. The other thing that could happen is if you're up here on the third level and you throw color, it will fall down unless it's covered on that spot below it. So this spot here in A3, if I were to put it here, it would stay here because there's one directly beneath it. That's another thing that you have to keep in mind, is that color will fall down unless there's something below it. Color could even fall onto another player. It goes into their supply, but you don't get that extra bonus point for a direct hit. So you're going to continue to do this. You're going to be moving, throwing your color, perhaps hitting other players, moving about the board, climbing up, trying to get as many scoring opportunities as you can. The other thing is that at the beginning of the game, you can choose up to 3 of these cards. And these cards are going to change the rules of the game, potentially change the scoring. And they can have a huge impact on the game, actually. They can really change up how the game plays out. So in this case, the Sweet Tooth, now the Sweet tokens are worth more in and of themselves. Minus 1 point for each color token another player got on you. So you can see how this would change you. There are other cards that can change the rules of the game. When you direct hit another player, they must give you 1 Sweets token if able. So it makes that even more powerful where you throw color on other players. And there's a whole bunch of these cards. Again, they say you can choose 0 to 3. You probably want to add 3 of these to any game just to make it have as many different possibilities and variability as possible. All right. At the end of the game, as I mentioned, 3 points for each color token here, 2 for each here, 1 point here, 2 points for each color token in every other player's supply, and then those 5 points based off of how many people have fewer Sweets tokens than you. You add up all your points, whoever has the most points at the end of the game wins Holi. There's no doubt that Holi is a beautiful game, and it starts right there with the box. That's a very striking image that's going to get you interested in what is inside, and what is inside is a pretty impressive package. The 3D structure is not difficult to put together. These plastic kind of levels have a nice indentation, so you don't really have to worry about your color tokens moving around. The structure itself seems relatively stable, but after repeat plays, I can't speak to that. The cards are very, very simple. I mean, it has nice imagery on the back, but the main portion that you're going to be looking at are just some very clear, easy to read patterns, which is good. They could have made this a lot more stylized, but it may have worked against the usability. So that looks very nice. All of the components are, to me, quite good. The screen printed movers to represent your color, which are, nice animal depictions, but this is essentially an abstract game. And while it's nice to have those kind of animal pictures on there, they don't really mean a whole lot. Overall, good looking components, nice looking art. It's going to be something that's going to draw people's attention if they're walking past the table.
Alrighty, we mentioned the theme at the very beginning, but it is an abstract game. What did you all think about how the game looked, the 3D nature of it, etc.?
I thought the 3D nature was pretty cool overall as far as like the way it was stacking. And it was kind of interesting because you have the different grid that you're putting the different stuff in. I thought it was going to be a little bit crazier than it was. I'm like, oh, cool, 3D thing with all sorts of different stuff, but it's really very mechanical and abstract it's an abstract game like it's supposed to be there. But I thought it was I think I like the theme more than how it all comes together.
Yeah, I agree. I like the theme, and I think it does help ultimately to know what's going on.
Oh, for sure.
Thematically, like if you're at the top and you throw some color, white falls to the bottom. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah, that helps. Yeah, it's you kind of do the whole like you got to be careful between the cardboard pillars.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then you're at the top and you play your card, you throw your color, and you go, okay, so this one falls to this one. Okay, it's not occupied, so it will fall. And then to this one, oh no, that one is occupied. Okay, so you have to like do this little geometric checking frequently,
Mhm.
especially like the second half of the game. That's a little just a sliver pedantic, but yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, I like the look of it, and I think it's a great theme. Even though, as we've said a couple of times now, it's just an abstract. I'm a little bit concerned about the fact that you have to take apart and put together the three-dimensional structure every time to get it in and out of the box. And although it seemed to be relatively sturdy, it does wobble a bit, and I do wonder if after time that maybe it wouldn't be quite as robust as of a structure. But the look is certainly pretty.
I just actually mentioned that earlier. Mike didn't see me record that part where I said that I thought it was very sturdy. So
Oh,
you
okay.
can pick me
there
or
you go.
Mike.
That's right.
One thing I thought was really interesting was that there's a 3D aspect to this, but you only ever go up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you have to choose when to go up. Obviously, you think, well, you want to go up as quickly as possible, but they use the greatest of all enticers to keep you low, and that's candy.
Yeah, baby. Yep.
Yeah.
Don't
Plus,
run
you
away
can-
from that candy.
And you can hit other people if you're on the same level as them. So if you sort of jump up before
Well, no, you can drop
anybody else
powder
does.
onto them.
You could drop it.
Yeah,
on
but
it.
they don't. They take. Yeah, I know that you lose something. Well, I forget what it was. Yeah, they take it, but you don't get the points, or you get the points, but they don't take the powder. There's something that you lose from not being on the same level, right?
Right.
And you drop powder on somebody. I forget what it was, but
Sure, but
so
if you
that's
also
why.
the candy keeps you down, I think, more
It
than anything
does.
else, because at first I thought, well, big deal, 5 more points than the next person, but that came into play quite a bit over the course of the game.
Mhm.
Everyone's going to get close to the same number of points of putting stuff out, which brings me to my biggest thing about this game is those cards.
Yeah,
So the rule book says use 1 to 3 of those cards. Tom Vassell says always use 3,
Right.
Yes.
but also don't just randomly grab 3. Semi-randomly grab 3, or pick a couple that, maybe randomly draw 1 or 2, but then keep drawing the third till it matches. You want kind of a nice mix.
Yeah.
You don't want 3 rules in effect. You
Yeah.
want something that's end game scoring, and I really think those change the game up dramatically.
Oh, for sure.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I think you need to cultivate the game experience a little bit in that way, because I know that I had a couple of very different experiences based solely on the cards that were in play, because it was with the same people. So it wasn't the people that were the variable. It was strictly those cards that was the variable. And one experience was much more satisfying than the other. And so I do think that that's something that that needs to be taken into account, is that can really change the feel of the game, maybe more so than it should. I do think that perhaps is a bit of a detriment to the design, is that it is so dependent upon which cards come out as to what your level of enjoyment might be.
Yeah. It reminds me of Sagrada is the same way for me. In which those cards that come up, some of them are just annoying, and I'd rather not have to think about it during the game or at the end of the game. Be like, oh, now I need to count. All this. It's just some are annoying. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And so you want to learn which ones are annoy you and just avoid them. It's an extra step, I guess.
I know we call
But
this
I would also say that some of those cards might be annoying, but some also just dramatically change the game.
Yeah.
Like there's one that says -1 point for putting stuff on the outside area. Well, that's so different than the game is now that you're going to change how you play. I don't know that it's annoying. It just makes you think about it in a different way.
Yeah.
I think the game overall is actually really tactical a lot of the times. It's hard to make a long-term strategy. just because the board changes so much, especially at like the higher player counts, and it's really hard to determine like where stuff is going to be. So you have to try to like on your turn figure out what's the best move for me right now based on the rules that are in play. So it's like, I guess long-term sort of things could be like, I'm going to try to go for candy and keep that, or I'm going to race up real quick. I mean, that's kind of your long-term things, but those are very straightforward and simple. A lot of times it's like, okay, well, Mike's in that position on this turn. Maybe I should move to throw the powder at him right now. So it's not like a thing that you plan out over a long time. So I think it's more like an abstract tactical game as opposed to like an abstract strategy game.
Yeah, and to piggyback.
Go ahead.
I was just going to piggyback off what Roy said there, which is it is very tactical also in the fact that you've got just a small hand of cards. And many times there's really no decision to make. You have a very clear choice. So sometimes you only have one card that you actually can play based on where you are, where other players are. And so the decision space is not always terribly large. Sometimes there's really no decision to make. It's like, well, I'm playing this card because that's the only card I can play. Other than you can always play a card face down and put put one anywhere. But that never feels as satisfying of a choice to me. I've done it, and sometimes it actually can be the right call. But it just never always feels as satisfying as when you can get all your stuff out there the way you want.
Yeah, that one's in there because they needed an escape valve.
Yes.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Right. What did you guys think? I was going to ask you of the somewhat take that nature of some of the aspects in the game. What do you think? Is it going to bother people? Did you guys personally like that aspect of it? You can target people in this game, you know.
But it's not. It's not too bad. I actually think it matters because abstract strategy games have a take that element to them, blocking somebody from getting to a certain spot. Like I might move to the top level and then not move for a couple turns so that you can't come up that same spot.
Right.
Yeah, I throw something on you, but that helps me more than hurts you.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit, but I didn't think it was a big deal.
It can make for really interesting dynamics in like a 3-player game where like 2 people are racing to try to get the candy and the other player is just trying to like run up to the top. We had a game where me and Mike were just fighting back and forth over candy like for our lives. And Tom's like, I'm just going to get points, guys. I don't know what you guys are doing. So me and Mike are trying to figure out because we had a rule in play where if you hit somebody, you get to steal a candy. So that made it even more take that at that point. So it's like we were just hitting each other back and forth constantly. And Tom's like, you know what I'm going to do? Follow the rules to get points. And that's kind of a thing that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting you asked that, Z, because sometimes that can really be a factor in my enjoyment of the game if it feels like that is just all it's about. But it never really bothered me. For one reason or another, the take that didn't bother me in this game. It's there, but it didn't bother me.
Sure.
Well, what are your final thoughts and ratings, Z?
Okay, so the take that for me does not really bother me either. I just was curious what the rest of you thought. I think it's fine. It's got a little, it doesn't really have teeth. It's more like, push. I'm going to push you a little bit. A couple of other minor things bother me, but everything in this game that I really like, or that, let me restate that. Everything in this game that I like or that I dislike, I do so to a very mild degree. Does that make sense? Like nothing in this game inspires fervor one way or the other.
Yes.
Couple of other minor things before I give you my final score here. Minor annoyances. The large wooden head, sometimes getting your way to see the rest of the board behind it. So you got to and it's so tall. And then also the color tokens, your color tokens, have a slight gradient variation, which I found annoying. Because sometimes I'm not sure if my token's my token or the orange melts into yellow and then it's your token or whatever. I rated a 6 out of 10. I liked it. I enjoyed my plays of it. I thought it was it's attractive. It's cohesive. It's a neat game. It's an abstract with a theme, but also with card play, but also not a lot of choices like many abstracts. So yeah, it works fine. I wonder if it's gonna find a market, and I honestly doubt it. But it's a fine game. I guess a 6 from me.
What about you, Roy?
I think overall for me, I'm also going to say it's a 6. And I think normally, as far as the gameplay goes, I'd probably have it a little bit lower. But I think that it's kind of innovative with the whole tower thing and stuff like that. I just find that slightly interesting, that the way they used it. And I kind of like how you place out the grid and stuff like that. But for me, it's not going to be a game that I'm going to enjoy going back to over and over again, like a classic abstract game where you really feel like you have these crunchy decisions where you're playing off against other players. It just felt like at the end, it's kind of like, oh, well, this person won and this person didn't do as well. And the scores were close overall most games we played. So it was hard to really see exactly how to squeak stuff out and make it really strategic for me. So, 6.
Mike?
A couple of things impact my score for this game. Number one is that I feel like the first game I played, I would have given it a full point lower than what I'm going to give it. But with the cultivation of the cards, I felt like it was a slightly better experience. But that has to be taken into account. The second thing is that this, I think, is a very crowded space in gaming, especially in the last 5 years or so. These kind of light, beautiful, tactical games. Abstracts, there are a lot of those, and I just don't know why I would necessarily pick this over others that Azul, for example, or even Sagrada, which, I know Z mentioned I like it probably a bit more than him. There are just other games in this weight of this style that I would play instead of this, so I'm also giving it a 6.
Oh, I thought you were going to give it a 5. It sounded like you were heading towards 5 territory.
It would have been a 5, based off that first game. But with the cards that were chosen, I thought it was a better experience.
All right, cool.
Well, once again, the cheese stands alone here. I would have given it a 6 based on my first play. Mm-hmm. But based on the cultivation of the cards, that makes a big difference to me. But it also allows you to pick a game experience that might fit towards you more to the degree if there's something you don't like. For example, one card gives you 3 points when you hit someone, and one card gives you 2 points for every candy you get. So that those change the game up to one of the different ends to go for. And because of that, I've actually upped it to a 7.5.
Wow.
I've really come around on it. I find, don't get me wrong, the looks certainly rank into that. I don't think the 3D thing is that bad. It's easy to stick your hands in and stuff without it being too messy. So I like the looks of it, and I think it's a fairly easy game, but I also think the strategy is deeper than, tactics, I guess, more than strategy. But when to play a card upside down matters more than I thought. Being able to put one anywhere on the board is a big deal, and knowing when to do that. So I enjoyed it a lot more as time went by.
Cool.
All right.
Well, there you go, folks. That's Holi, a festival cover. I think we can agree it is one of the coolest covers there is.
It's beautiful. Just beautiful.
So hopefully that gives you an idea, folks, if you would like it or not. But until next time, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Z Garcia. Thanks.
I'm Roy Kennedy.
And I'm Mike DeLisio.
And we're the Four Squares. See you next time.